This film is about hospitals and about fires. The names of the places don't matter. They could be anywhere. The events portrayed could be real, and all too often they end in tragedy. You see, most people think about fires like they think about road accidents. They're something that happens to somebody else. Unfortunately, fires do occur, and their consequences can be out of all proportion to the size. Fear, panic, hysteria, even death can result from quite small fires. So in this film, we show you some of the effects of fire, how fires start, and most important, how they can be prevented.
A mother and son are admitted to hospital as the result of a road accident. Two porters arrive at the ward block. Their duty is to unload the stores van, which will then be driven away, and to place the stores in the storeroom on the ground floor of the building. As a first step to release the van as early as possible, the stores are placed within the staircase enclosure inside the entrance lobby to the block. Both men then bring the stores in from the staircase enclosure into the store. As a result, combustible materials are placed at the top of the stack and come into contact with an electric light bulb. At lunchtime, both men leave the store, leaving the light on and the door open. Meals are being served in the wards. Meantime, the heat from the lighted bulb quickly raises the combustible material to ignition temperature, and a fire starts. It gains hold quickly, and heat and smoke pass from the store into the corridor. A junior nurse walking along the corridor spots the smoke. She immediately turns on her heel back to the ward without sounding the alarm, so the staff and patients on the upper floors are still in danger. Thick smoke fills the staircase. And because a door is left open on the top floor, it billows into the ward and is seen coming from the windows. Although there is delay in sounding the alarm, the call is eventually received by the fire brigade. On arrival, no accurate information is readily forthcoming from the staff, and the brigade appliances and personnel are immediately engaged in rescue and firefighting operations. About 20 patients and members of the staff are rescued by the brigade from the top floor of the building. But there are a number of casualties, including fatalities. Inquiries into fires involving loss of life nearly always reveal some human mistake or failure to follow the rules. In the event of fire, knowledge of the correct sequence of actions designed to protect you and your patients is essential. And if you are to carry out this sequence correctly, it's necessary for you to understand fire.
Well, the first essential thing to learn in understanding fire is a necessity.
These students are learning the first important lesson. What is fire?
These must all come together in a triangle. Right. Now draw.
Fire is the result of three essential ingredients coming together. They are air, fuel, and heat. Firemen call this the fire triangle. The removal or the absence of any one of the ingredients will extinguish a fire or prevent it from starting. This is the simple basic rule upon which all firefighting and fire prevention is based. We can remove or exclude the air from a fire, or we can remove heat by cooling the temperature. Now, let's see how this triangle is related to the everyday environment. This room is full of air, and almost everything else in it is potential fuel. So the possibility of accidentally adding the third side of the triangle, heat, and starting a fire, is ever present. In most normal environments, two sides of the fire triangle are already drawn. The moral is simple: keep heat safely in its place.
Now, there is one important aspect we haven't touched on yet. You can't have a fire without smoke, and smoke is a killer. Every year, thousands of people die as a result of fire, but very few are actually burned to death. Over 80% die from asphyxia. Smoke, consisting of gas and superheated air, can very quickly reach temperatures of 1,000 degrees centigrade. And of course, one breath can kill. And this mixture of smoke and gas and superheated air can sweep along corridors and up staircases, involving whole buildings in a matter of seconds. So, what can we do to protect ourselves?
One answer is fire-check doors. Fire doors are specially constructed to resist fire and prevent the passage of smoke. They are positioned at strategic points to protect corridors, staircases, and so on, and to contain fire and smoke within the area where fire has occurred. They will contain a fire long enough for adjoining areas to be evacuated and for help to arrive. But to be effective, they must be kept closed, and door closers are fitted to ensure this. Fire doors must never be propped open with wedges, and door closers must never be disconnected. There are some areas, however, that are so busy that it is well nigh impossible to keep doors closed. Safety can be maintained in these areas by fitting electric door stays. These devices use electromagnets to hold the doors open, and they are particularly useful where stretchers and trolleys are passing to and fro. Should the electric power fail or be cut off and the doors allowed to close, help can still get into the fire area and people can get out. In other words, electric door stays fail in the safe position, doors closed. These doors must never be obstructed by anything that would prevent them from closing.
Sister, Elm Ward. I want to report an electrical fault. We have a wax bath overheating.
About 20% of all fires occurring in hospitals are caused by electricity, and of these, the majority are associated with the use of electricity in staff residences and domestic service departments. Often, circuits are overloaded, or cables are joined together incorrectly, leading to excessive heat being created. The use of makeshift fuses in plugs is common. This is dangerous. Correct fuses should always be fitted and all repairs carried out by a qualified electrician. Always report defects immediately.
We have an electrical fault on the thermostat.
Now let's look at likely places for fires to start, or risk areas as they are called. And stores are a good example. Bad storage is all too often the result of bad planning. Space is wasted, and overflow problems are resolved by storage in areas not designed for that purpose. But it is possible to have good storage even in the busiest of hospitals. Plenty of space between the stacks means easy access and efficient working conditions. High storage is not necessary, and strict observance of the rules will minimize the chance of a fire starting. The correct disposal of refuse is an important factor. Never allow used cartons and so on to accumulate. Dispensaries present special problems. And inflammable liquids cause most concern. Liquids like ether, alcohols, and acetone give off vapors capable of being ignited at considerable distances from their containers. This fact, combined with their free-flowing properties, may result in small spillages becoming large, fierce fires. Materials such as these should be stored in properly constructed and ventilated storerooms, and the amounts admitted to wards or other departments should be restricted to the absolute minimum. Laundries are usually busy places, but they are also risk areas. With masses of drying equipment and electrical appliances, surfaces quickly become coated with lint and fluff. This material is highly inflammable and will assist the rapid spread of fire. Faults in equipment must be reported immediately, and fluff should be cleaned from machines, overhead pipes, ducts, and beams at frequent intervals. On the other hand, service ducts are used by relatively few people, but they are essential in hospital maintenance. If you are called upon to work in areas like these, always ensure that combustible materials are protected by asbestos sheets and a fire extinguisher kept ready for use at all times. When work ceases in these areas, or wherever maintenance work is being carried out, a careful inspection should be made to ensure nothing is left behind that could start a fire. Fire in kitchens are common occurrences, and hospital kitchens are no exception. The risk of fire is greatest in the deep fat frying range, and a particular danger is the speed at which it spreads into the ducting, with the possibility of involving parts of the building. Fires can be started by improperly drained foods or by the fat overheating. First sound the alarm, close the lid with the hooked pole provided, and turn off the heat to the range. Swift action is essential if you are to prevent fire spreading. Oxygen is vital to life and is of course widely used in hospitals. But while it will not burn, it is a vigorous supporter of combustion. Consequently, the use of oxygen equipment, particularly oxygen tents, present a great fire risk to the patient. The modern trend of piped supplies and individual masks tends to lessen the risk, but not to eliminate it. Needless to say, smoking must never be permitted anywhere near oxygen equipment, but less obvious dangers, where children are concerned, the unwitting parent who brings electrical or friction toys as gifts. The dangers associated with operating theatres have long been acknowledged. Precautions to obviate any sparking where oxygen is used in conjunction with inflammable gases, the use of anti-static devices on movable equipment within the theatre, the specially designed footwear and clothing, and the care taken in insulating the patient are accepted routines. Strict observance of these result in freedom from explosions and fires in theatres. Nevertheless, these dangers should never be forgotten. Smoking in hospitals is now actively discouraged, but there are some areas, mainly day rooms, where smoking is permitted, and consequently a real danger of fire exists. A thorough inspection should be carried out after evacuation to check for any signs of smouldering in the upholstery, for instance. Despite all precautions taken in these areas and elsewhere, it may prove necessary to move patients as a first stage behind the relative safety of fire-check doors, and as a second stage, in cases of extreme danger, clear of the building. This can be achieved quickly and safely using simple methods. The type of fire equipment in use in hospitals is varied, and no one type is suitable to deal with all kinds of fire. Care must be taken in selecting the correct one before tackling a fire.
You must remember that some of the force lines offer different stop costs. This must always be in the right position. Open when you're using it, closed, finished.
It's your duty to know what to do in the event of fire. Now let's look at our fire sequence again. Stop. Remember your training. Sound the alarm. Close the door. Someone not committed to patient care can tackle the fire with the correct extinguisher. The officer in charge of the first appliances checks the location of the fire on the indication panel and on arrival at the building is met by a responsible member of staff who gives him a swift appraisal whilst taking the officer to the scene of the fire. A job well done by all concerned, with no danger to life and damage restricted to a minimum. The busy life of a large hospital quickly returns to normal.
We have tried to show you that fire can occur anywhere, at any time, to anyone, and that once a fire has started, it's too late to start making plans. Fire must be the concern of everyone. Your life and the lives of others may depend on how you act in an emergency.